Good afternoon and happy Wednesday. I am so excited to have our next conversation of the Dream League here. I can't wait to dive in. I know that people are still joining in us, so we are going to get started in about 2 minutes, 1 to 2 minutes, and I'm going to introduce this amazing speaker and just all around wonderful human being. So I'll let a couple more people jump on and then we will get started. See you in a second. Okay. Again, welcome. I am Portia C. I am the founder and principal consultant of the Workplace Reset Consulting Group, and I am so excited to welcome you to the Dream League. The Dream League is a conversation series. It's centered on mentorship through conversation. It's not a panel, it's not a performance. It's truly genuine dialogue with women whose leadership, wisdom, experience, and presence offer something meaningful to those who are still building towards the next level. And at the heart of each conversation is one guiding question: what would you tell the woman building toward the level you now occupy? Today's conversation is titled "You Can't Fix Performance Without Fixing the System." And it sits directly at the center of the work that we do at the Workplace Reset. So many workplace challenges get labeled as performance problems, but in reality, the conditions surrounding the work have not fully been examined. And so today we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about performance, leadership, accountability, psychological safety, and just the process improvement. I am so excited. I have been waiting, y'all, to introduce this dynamic woman today. I'm so honored that she decided and gave me her yes. And so I'm so excited to have Angela D. Harness join us here today. Hi.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here with you, Portia. And I just have to say, I am just as excited to be here with you as well.
Oh, thank you. I am going to be professional, I swear. But just one quick personal moment. When I say the moment I lightly stalked Angela on LinkedIn, and my first conversation with her, I said, "Oh my goodness, I have to have you in my life." And I'm just so honored that she allowed me to semi force my way into her circle. And she's just such an amazing person. So I am just doubly excited to have you here today.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So let me tell you who
Thank
this
you.
person
Thank
is.
you.
Okay. So Angela is an executive leader, organizational strategist, and the founder and CEO of the Harness Consulting Group. She brings more than 25 years of experience leading complex public and nonprofit organizations and collaborating with consulting organizations. She's led enterprise operations serving more than 10 million customers. She's directed more than 800 employees across 131 statewide locations. She's guided large scale organizational transformation, customer service, workforce development, and operational excellence initiatives. Needless to say, the girl is bad. Okay, sis is bad.
Bless
Okay,
your heart.
it's crazy because she's just getting started. And that's really the amazing part of it. She is recognized for her human centered leadership. And I am just so excited to have her here with all of her accolades and all of her experience and knowledge to help guide us through this conversation and to just really dive into how you can't fix performance without fixing the system. So let's kick it off real quick. When you hear that title, Angela, what does it bring up for you? Like based on what you've seen and what you have led throughout your career, you can't fix a performance without fixing the system. What does that mean to you?
Well, I would have to say, Portia, that's a really good question. First of all, let's get to the heart of the matter because I mean, just the mere sorry about that. Just the mere fact that you're starting with the performance. You didn't even start with the people, and oftentimes, and I kind of stand in a line by myself because I am human centered. I think of people and how best to serve people. But as I began to work in my career, what I realized, wow, we're not giving the people the right tools, the right equipment, the right strategy. We're not giving them what they need. So you first got to think of, what are we doing? What are we inheriting? Whether you walk in on the job or whether you're creating a job, you have to look at your policies, your processes, your structure. What am I doing? When you walk in a job and you see a mess, are you honest with yourself that this is a mess? Or do you fake it? And you know what we do. We're just glad we got the job. So we immediately begin to do the worst thing we can do is fake it.
Yeah.
We're not transparent with our leaders. We're not transparent with the CEO. And heaven forbid, if you're the top leader and you're hired to run a bureau, a department, an organization, you must be transparent about what you're inheriting. And once you begin to assess what you're inheriting, which is the system, you begin to look at the people. And there's three things within a system. You got to remember there's the people,
Okay.
right? There's the structure, the organization, and then there's the customer. So you have to assess each area before you can even think about fixing the system. You have to assess the system with
Mm,
honesty.
that's so good. I mean, we diving right in, okay? Because there's so much that you just said that I want to touch on. The one,
Oh,
inheriting systems itself. You make an assumption there's going to be some challenges. There's going to be the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? And I love that you said, the worst thing that you can do is say, I'm not going to truly acknowledge what I see because
you
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 are
say it so well.
right.
Yes, I'm not going to
But,
acknowledge it.
you're not going to acknowledge it. You're just like, hear no evil, see no evil. Like, it's like, no, that's how are we truly going to create systemic change and growth and development when we won't even talk about the elephant in the room? And so we have to be transparent and honest about what the heck is going on, right? And,
Mhm.
and
Correct.
so
Correct.
it's so for me, I guess the follow up to that would be, as leaders, what do leaders tend to see first when they do come into that system? What do you think that their lens is focused on?
The people. The people, not the process. You're because what you first want to do is get to know your people. If you want to know your staff, you want to know your team players, you want to know all the stakeholders. So the last thing we assess is the system. We
Mm,
assess the people. And because we assess the people, the blame goes to the people.
the
The
people.
celebration, the
Hmm.
good is
Yeah.
the people. And so when we begin to look at performance and we begin to look at how do you address performance and how do you address the system, we go back. So anybody that's on this call, don't go in and immediately assess your people. Get to know your people, engage your people. Of course, you want to do that.
Yeah.
But look at the system that your people are working with.
Angela, can you
And
hear
that
me? It's kind of stalling out on our end. Give me 1 second. Let me see if we can get you back. I hear you, but it's kind of frozen. Can you hear us? All right, we're gonna try to get her back really, really fast. Just when it was getting really good, guys. Crazy. Okay, but we are trying to get her back right now.
yes.
Okay, it sounds like she's making her way back. Hopefully, we can get her in real quick. Thank you all for hanging out with us today on your lunch. I really appreciate it. And we're just getting good. See, stuff be happening when you're about to talk about some real stuff. You get all types of technical difficulties, but we know that this is a very important topic. And so we are going to get Angela back in here as soon as possible. And we're going to keep it moving. Angela, can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Okay. Are we back on?
There you are. We got it. We got it. I hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I can, yes. Yes. Can you hear us okay? You're muted. Just unmute. Here you go. I got you. If you can click unmute for me, but I can see you good. There you go. Okay. Testing. Can you hear us? I think you're good. Just,
Testing, testing.
yep.
Can you
I
hear
got
me?
you. Good.
Okay.
Yep. We're
Okay.
back. You just muted
I
yourself again.
and
Oh, you're good. You're good. You're
let me say this. No, yesterday was so crazy. I digress. But yesterday I was telling my mother, I was like, I don't know what's going on with my laptop, with my phone. I don't know if everybody's been experiencing this, but I have really been experiencing a lot of delay and being kicked out of systems. But anyway,
Mm. I just told
I
them, I
thought
said it
about what you just
be some
said
really good.
and about this point that I want to make is, can you imagine coming into a workplace, being able and positioned to really give a real picture of what's happening? If someone said, I want you to come in, I want you to look at a leader, meaning the
Mhm.
CEO, I want you to come in, or a CEO saying, I want you to look at me and see what are the changes that we need to make within the system. I want you to tell me the good, the bad, from start, from A to Z. Can you imagine the difference that would make, opposed to coming in and just trying to get along, to be a part of a system that you're there to correct? You're there to make the changes, but you're afraid to, because why? Because you're afraid of rejection, and you're afraid of not being liked, or you're afraid you're won't be accepted by your team or your new CEO.
Mhm. And that fear becomes the bigger motivation than the change, right? You'll come in with the ideas of making something better, growing it, developing it, shifting it. The goal is to make it better. But that fear becomes a bigger motivation than the change. And you start moving in that. And also, of course, I'm going to put on my IO hat never leaves me. So my question is, what is the environment or the culture that is it welcoming enough? Is it keep creating a safe space so that you can be honest, right? And that comes from top down. That does come from CEO. That does come from whoever hired you. Are they giving you the safety that you're needing to be transparent and to be honest? Are they coming in and saying, "Listen, we got some issues. I know we got some issues. You ain't got a lot of kicking with me. You know, like it's okay because we're ready
Correct.
to work on them." And that psychological safety is absolutely needed. And even that, if you're feeling the need to just go along to get along and not really be truthful, then we need to speak to it. Hey, I've assessed some things. Hey, I see some gaps. Hey, I see some things that could shift, but I'm also feeling an unease to talk about it. You know what I mean? And so we have to
Well,
we have to
when
make
you talk, yes, yes.
go ahead. What were you gonna say?
When you talk about when you talk about psychological safety is really an element that systems and organizations aren't familiar with. And of course, your background, you're familiar with it. But
Mhm.
psychological safety is, there's no penalty for my truth. There's no discipline or literally ostracized, set away from the team. There's no disadvantage in my truth. And oftentimes, psychological safety is the responsibility of the CEO. It's not It's the culture. Psychological safety is with safety culture, or have you created a culture that is damning, harming? What kind of culture are you creating? And I love that you made mention of that, because oftentimes your innovators, the people that come in with great ideas, motivated, like we could change this, we can, you know, but once they're really sized up and judged and minimized,
Yeah.
guess what they do? They shrink. They're no longer giving you their ideas. They're no longer the first to show up. They're no longer with the great plans, because now they're not what? They're not safe to engage, to tell
Yeah.
you, to share in that organization.
100%. And it's those small moments like that doesn't happen, that reducing yourself, right? That shrinking. It doesn't happen immediately. It happens over a series of consistent behavior, right? And so that's
Yeah.
that's truly what we have to look out for, just in system building, system assessing, is those moments, like you just said, without penalty, being transparent
Mhm.
without penalty. Oh, that was so good. That's definitely going to be a clip I'm going to run back when this is over. That was a good one. I liked it. It was good. Okay, so when performance is not where it needs to be, okay, when performance is not where it needs to be, what should leaders examine before deciding what the solution should be? Can you hear me? It's fading out again. All right. Angela, let me know if you can hear me. Angela, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you. I
We're
didn't hear the
back. All right.
question though. Okay.
No worries. I'm going to run it back real fast. Okay. So when performance is not, say performance is
Okay.
not where it needs to be, okay, what should leaders examine before deciding what the solution should be?
Hmm. When a performance doesn't align with the organization or what is happening within the organization, leaders must first examine themselves. Okay?
Mhm.
Because performance depends on the leader. And people don't like to own that. That accountability piece is painful. But you must examine yourself before you can examine the leader. Am I doing all I can do to get the best out of this person? Am I providing the tools? Am I engaged? Am I understanding the whole person? I tell you a quick example. I once inherited a team, and every person I inherited was considered a problem child. When I look
Mm.
back on that, I'm like, yeah, I mean, literally, no one wanted them on, no manager wanted them. And it was like, oh, send them to Angela, send them to Angela. I look back on that. That was a problem. Like, why did I take that team? But when I looked at that, when I looked at inheriting, I mean, a complete team, and I'm not talking about one or two people, and what each person I began to engage. I took them off site. First thing is because they already had a reputation on site, right? They were known, I mean, literally known as the problem kids. So I took them off site. I established a relationship with them. I identified their weaknesses and their strengths. I began to pair them up. So you're technical savvy, you're not. You're human centered savvy, you're quick and to the point, you don't have time for people. I said, so I'm going to pair you up. And this was with, and I can just tell you the company, this was with DHHS. I said, I'm going to pair you up with at the Department of Health and Human Services, and we're going to find out how to best use your skills. And
Yeah.
that was the first time that someone had actually noticed them for what they did provide instead of what they couldn't provide.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
That
And
accountability
I'm going to say
is
this, I'm still connected to that team. They still call me.
mm,
They literally they remember me saving their state jobs.
yeah. Yeah. That's so good, Angela. That's good. So many things in that story. It's because what leader prior to you did not properly assess their staff? Everybody is not a one, each role is not like one size fits all. Your employees are not all the same. They don't communicate things the same. They don't learn the same.
Oh,
They don't
absolutely.
access information the same. And so you can't just place staff, just to fill a spot, and I'm not saying that's what took place in that situation, but I'm saying, how do you set your team up for success if you don't know who your team is,
Correct.
you know? And for
Yes.
you to have come along, and obviously whoever said send them to Angela was accurate if you. I mean, it's kind of messed up, but
Right. Yeah.
but they knew that you were properly equipped to assess and to determine what the real issues were, and to say, okay, well, I'm going to invest in taking the time to figure out what is really happening. You did not just write them off as the problem team, you know? And, you know, I say this from sun up to sundown. Most of the problems in the workplace are not really people problems. They're not. They and are you investing in the people to know, where their strengths are? Even you saying, okay, you are not looking at their necessary strengths versus weaknesses. You're saying this is what you're better at. So let me position you in a way so that you can be successful. Let me position you to
Correct.
win, you know? And that's
Yes.
amazing. That's amazing leadership from you. Kudos to you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
That is how you really lead. And I have similar like I have similar experiences in my career where I have um, staff that I've managed that still reach out to me 10, 15 years later and
Yes.
say, hey, you know, those were good times. I ain't had a manager like you since, stuff like that. But
Right. Yes. Yes.
it matters. And I love how your first step of to the question, you know, if performance is lacking, what should leaders look at first? And your first response was themselves. That accountability is so important. And a lot of times it's so overlooked. And that's not even necessarily on purpose. Because if
Mhm.
we're being honest, every leader doesn't have the proper toolkit to lead. Some leaders
Mhm.
have been put in these positions to lead without the real toolkit to be a leader. They may have been great in the role they were in
Mhm.
and got
Right.
transferred to leadership, but there's much more that's needed to really lead a team than just you being skilled in the area, So it might not truly be, I just don't care about the people, but you might not have really been taught how to really lead a team, and that's something we should probably be talking more about as well.
I think the one caveat to that is that oftentimes people that are promoted within an organization are promoted best based on skill.
Mhm.
They're the subject matter experts, whether you're talking about any industry. If you don't look outside the industry and you look within the industry, you're looking at the person who gets the job done. You're looking at the person who shows up to work every day. You're looking at the person that everybody goes to get the answer, right?
Yeah.
but that doesn't make them a leader.
No.
It doesn't. And
Mm-mm.
what it makes them a great worker, it makes them a great
Yeah.
employee, a acts, you love them, you want to give them, the bonuses, but when it's time to lead, some, not all, they have no clue. And here you are promoting a person in your organization based on skill, but not leadership.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Okay. Let's talk about it.
Oh
Because
my
it
goodness.
happens
Okay.
so often. It happens so often. And as leaders, we think we're doing the right thing. No, no, no. They got it. They're great. And maybe, and I'm not trying to take away somebody's leadership role, right? But I want you to win in your leadership role. I want you
Oh,
to be
absolutely.
successful in your leadership role. And so I want to talk about it because maybe somebody on this call who's thinking about, the next change or shift or development in their teams, maybe they hear this and say, you know what, let me make sure I give them the proper tools before I promote them
Hmm.
so that they
Hmm.
can be
Hmm.
successful. Let me
Hmm.
develop leadership training and really tell you the difference between training. Like, you might be a great trainer. I know how to do this role well. I can teach you how to do this role well. But that's but if I'm not training you to be a good leader, then I'm putting a trainer in a leader position and then wondering why the team is falling apart, you know?
and you and that's a system problem. So
And
you
that's a
just
system problem.
identified that's a system problem within leadership. I think when you talked a little bit about, I think we talked one-on-one about gaps, right? And so often ends up being and to everyone who's basically depending on that leader. So it's so critical that we assess people prior to promoting them. Give them opportunities to lead. Don't just
Yeah.
promote them for their knowledge. Give them an opportunity to lead. It could be a project. It could be a policy. Implement this policy for me and see what they do. But
Mhm.
you can't promote people based on skill alone. And that is a serious system issue within organizations.
100%. I love how you put that. So we clearly have named that leadership accountability is an area that should be explored, right? So what happens when leaders demand accountability, right, without building the conditions for its success?
So when you don't build the conditions within the organization, everyone suffers.
Yeah,
Everyone suffers. Literally. Your staff suffers, your employees suffers, your leadership suffer, your money, your bottom line within your organization suffer, and ultimately who you're servicing or your customer or who's purchasing your product, they suffer. And so when you have all of these dynamics in place and you begin to assess, the first thing you really got to do, you got to create a needs assessment. You got to go to each area that I've identified. You got to put all the stakeholders, whether you do it via survey, whether you do it via focus groups, town halls. It just depends on how you want to assemble the people, the key stakeholders together to come up with what are the gaps, to come up with how do we address, how do we identify, how do we fix what's broken in our system.
I am 100% a data girl. So you talking my language right now. Let's do a focus group. Let's do all of the
That's
analysis.
so that's the student in us, right? Because when you're a continuous learner, and I definitely identify you, Portia, as a continuous learner. When you are a continuous learner, you're constantly learning new ways of communication, new ways of reaching your audience. If you just stick with the status quo, I've arrived, I'm the CEO, this is my company, I'm the head, and you no longer literally try to learn new skills, the language, the culture, what's new, what worked 20 years ago don't work today.
That part.
AI has changed everything. I mean, literally, AI has changed everything. If you do not examine who you are as a leader and your own skill set, you will become obsolete. I mean, it's given. You will become obsolete.
Let's talk about it for real, okay? Because long are the days, bye bye are the days where we can just be, stagnant in how we show up, how we learn, how we grow. The workforce is absolutely not what it was 15
No.
years ago, 20 years ago. We've got this intergenerational dynamic happening. And this these younger members of the
Say it.
workforce,
Yes. Yes.
okay,
We'll walk out. We'll quit. If you, what do they say? You're messing with my mental. If you mess
listen.
with their mental health,
Mhm.
they will walk away from that state job, that Ford Motor Company job, walk
Yep.
off, like literally, like, I don't care because you're messing with my mental. So how do we
Mhm.
appeal this? Because we have such a workforce shortage. When we're talking about
Right.
systems within, there's a workforce shortage. How do you begin to appeal to the new age worker? How do we appeal to them? Because you
Mhm.
have to begin to start with, what do they talk about? Their mental space, their capacity. They have to have the capacity, the bandwidth to give what you're expecting, but are you giving them the tools? Are you
Yep.
engaged? Are
Yep.
you asking the right questions? That's what the human centered approach is. You're dealing with the whole person within the ecosystem you create. And I don't want to go too deep into that, but but
No,
definitely you're
speak
dealing
on
with
it.
the whole person.
Whole person. Let's bring back the most just simple mindset of that people are showing up in their entirety at work. We are not, we're just no longer. I can recall my grandparents, they worked at the plant for 40, 50 years. That loyalty aspect, right, that
Mm-hmm,
was
mm-hmm.
hammered in, um, that imbalance that was just like, it just is what it is. Yes, I'm mentally drained. Yes, I'm in a moment about to have a breakdown, but I'm loyal. But I'm still showing up, right?
Every
Where
day.
every day I'm still here. I have 50 PTO days at the end of the year because I don't ever take off, because I have no balance, because I was taught to just show up and produce and be loyal. But now you still got laid off after 20 years. And so now you've got to do 20 years of mental work now because you don't have a job. You're that sense of, accomplishment and being loyal, it doesn't matter that much anymore.
No,
And the
it
new,
doesn't.
the younger generation is changing the workforce where it's less about loyal and more about stability. It's more about you making sure I have the capacity. It's about bringing psychological safety back in, or into the workplace, not back, but into the workplace. They're trying to create more of a balance. And I recall even growing up in college where I was told, like, leaving a job early, early being like before, 3, 4, 5 years, is frowned upon.
Uh-huh.
Like, you really had
Yeah.
to explain why you could not stick it out for 4 or 5 years. But now I see people are like, yeah, I was there for about 7 months. I got what I needed. I've moved on.
Yes,
It's
yes.
just not the same.
Ah,
The workforce is not the same. And if you don't, like you said, if you don't adapt, and understand what is being shown as what is important to your employees and giving the
Mm-hmm.
space and creating the system and the real culture of allowing someone to show up fully as themselves, you're going to lose. And that's just perfectly transitioning into the question, which is, where do organizations waste money because they're trying to solve the wrong problems?
Okay. Now, this people may disagree with, but I'm going to say in technology.
Mm,
You know my history. I have worked for state government, for motor company. I have, I mean, literally every think probably every bureau I've worked at, and in my consulting, technology advancements is always the thing that they think is going to be that's going to put them over, that's going to take them to the
mm,
next, that's going to improve the customer what experience. And how
mm-hmm,
are we going to do that? We're going to do that with updating our technology system. And so what I found is people, companies, private, public, they will spend millions to update a system that's broken only to inherit a system that doesn't work.
mm,
It makes this up. And I'm not going to throw names out there of companies because it may be people on this call. I'm not going to throw names out there of companies that have experienced this, but they
yeah.
will literally in put a system together, a technology system that they didn't include the front line, the people who do the work. They don't include the first line supervisors. They don't include the people. And then when they start testing, oh, we want you to test this. We're going to shut the office down for 2, 3 days and we're going to do testing at night. And then the people start telling them all the glitches. Well, did you think about this when you did you think about that? But when you start with the testing phase, you've already purchased the product. You're stuck.
Yeah.
So what happens? I mean, and I've saw this so many. I mean, when I say this has occurred so many times, I'm like, it can't be this hard. It just can't be this hard, right? But then after they fix, then they create fix-its. Like, okay, the staff create workarounds. You know why the
Yep.
staff can create workarounds? A system they inherited because they know it manually. They know
Yep.
how to get around the system. So then they're working on the bugs. So now they got to add more money to
Mm,
create another platform to address the bugs of the system that now they're listening to the employees. I literally cannot make
wow.
and so technical advances and modernization of products and AI is now everybody's trying to figure out how to implement AI. Some companies are afraid and some people are embracing it. So it's like, how do you begin to do this in a smart way? And I encourage every organization, I encourage every company, please start with your people. Do not go buy a product without the people that's going to be performing the job.
Mm, mm, mm. You got to have the right people in the room.
Ah,
Have to
you
have
do.
the right people in the room. And who are the right people, Angela? Tell them, please, child, because
The right people is the person that's going to sit there every day. And I'm not going to call out an industry because then I'll be telling folk
mhm,
business. But I'm not going to call out an industry. But it's a person who sits there every day I mean, literally doing this job in a robust, repetitious way, and they're able to see quickly what's going to work and what's not going to work. Because once you start that testing phase, the CEO all the way down to the front line, they start getting all the chatter. All the chatter starts. Although, why did they do it this way? Why didn't they think of this? Because they didn't include you. That's
yep,
why. They didn't know. And I say this seriously. The leaders don't know. It's not even that they did anything to harm their company or
right,
harm their
right.
business. They didn't think, oftentimes they think the front line is the last that they have to consider, when if you
Mm.
really start with the front line, you will be strengthened and you will learn a lot yourself if you start with the front line.
100%. I talk about that all the time because we get into, as leaders, we work so hard to make our way up this food chain, right? And we might start at the front line where we're in it day to day, and we know the good, bad, and ugly because we're working it every single day. And then we move up because we have our own goals, right? And we're trying to
Mm, mm, mm.
to the C-suite. And the reality is, let's just be honest, once we're in that suite, we're less removed, right? We're less removed from the day to day of what is happening in our, in the overall the organization. And, but you're making decisions that are affecting everybody in the organization. So before you're making those decisions, you have to have one representative of each part of your organization in the room. That way you get the full scope of what is needed for the organization. And a lot of times, just being honest, that's not happening. You're only
No.
putting leaders in the room, and all of you are making
Mhm.
these, all of us, we're making these decisions. And we're trying, again, like you said, not trying to be malicious, not trying to, we just believe that we have um, the full story, but we don't, right? Let's talk about it. Well, we don't. We
No.
don't have it. If I sit a lot of C-suite leaders down to the front line today and say, what is the system? How does it work? How should you
Mhm.
answer? You know what I mean? Like just a simple thing. Like, what is the process that we use for picking up and talking to a customer? What, like just those, that
Mhm.
day-to-day working. They're probably not going to, a lot of times, you're not going to know it. And so you have to be uh, almost want to say humble, but I'm not saying that you're being arrogant, but I am saying that there needs to be more inclusivity. Let's say that.
Yes.
There needs to be more
Yes.
inclusivity in the decision making. And it's only going to benefit everyone.
Mhm.
It's
And
it's
and
not
I
really outside there.
and I'm going to say, if you really think about what you just said, inclusion. Inclusion is really a lot of what happens in organization. There's a lack of inclusion. It really is. And it's because everybody wants to state who they are in that food chain, right? If I'm in the C-suite, why am I socializing with and it really is sad, but it's a culture of I've arrived. That's the only thing I can think of. I have arrived to a certain status, and I don't have to fraternize with the who I consider not on my level. And what
Yeah.
happens when you do that, when you forget that, you're no longer human centered. You're system centered, right? You're money centered. What are you focusing on? You're no longer focusing. The people that have to do this job every day, you want them to show up for you. You want your customer to buy your product. You want your customer to continue using your service. You want your customer to come to your hospital. You want your customer, they want you to be their therapist. It goes in every industry if you think about it. What are you aligning yourself with? Are you aligning yourself for performance base only, or are you aligning yourself with the ecosystem that can thrive? Thinking of people, then the organization, and then the customer. And that's rare. It starts with the customer,
Yeah.
then the
Yeah.
organization, and then the people's
Then the
last.
people.
But the people are the one that's doing the work.
Yeah. And if they don't show up,
The
everything
work
else
doesn't get
falls
done.
apart.
Yeah,
That's the
for
thing. Yeah.
sure.
And you've seen it time and time again, the walkouts and just the quiet quitting and the all of these things. So it's almost like, how do you run the risk of not putting the people first? Like you
Well,
taking a big risk not doing that, because I don't know how you think the system is going to run without your people.
Well, businesses are suffering now. They're thinking about it now. That's from all industry. If you look at the number of college loans, if you look at the shortage in blue collar workers, if you look at the shortage in skilled trades, All these industries are suffering. And so now they're beginning to examine, what do we need to do to attract talent? What do we need to do to improve our workforce? These are the things that we're beginning to think about. These are the things that are making news headlines. So for all of us, start with yourself. Examine your business. Take that need assessment. Please do a needs assessment. It will give you all of your gaps. And once you identify your gaps, start with your top three. Make sure one is about your people, one is the organization, and one for the customer. And then that way you continually improve with your risk assessments and also with your strategic plan every year. This is what we're going to start with, and you stick to it. And even if you don't have the money and you don't have the resources, or you're told no, in state government, you're told no all the time, right? That's a part of the
Yeah.
state government. We don't have the money. But then what creative ways can you engage your people? What do you have? What's the innovation out there to engage your people in improving the system?
100%. I love that, if nothing else, people can walk away with tangible strategy from this conversation that you just gave them. And
Mm-hmm.
definitely another moment I'm going to keep replaying because it's very important. As we stated earlier, people are being placed in these leadership roles, not necessarily with the full toolkit to know how to better improve and be better leaders. And now they have something tangible that they can go and research and develop for themselves. If the organization is not investing in more leadership tools and training, you've just given them a little playbook. So shout out to you. That was wonderful. And that's absolutely something that is so important um, for the success. And one thing I do want to add to that is, don't let it be a once a year thing. Check in, do midpoint assessments, do mid-year assessments, do
Yep.
mid-year feedback from your employees. Don't just
Very
believe that
good.
we're starting the year off, we're going to do all of these things and we have this big plan, because reality knows is from 8 o'clock you have a plan, and by 2 o'clock that plan is out the window, right? So if that can happen on a daily basis, I'm certain it's
Mm-hmm.
happening year. I'm certain it's happening quarterly. So check in. That's how you know really the success of the initiative, the change, the growth, the development. You got to check in. You have to say,
Check
this
in.
is the goal. Are we meeting it? Are we on track to meet it? If not, what is happening? We thought we did a good assessment and a good analysis, but maybe we missed something. And the only way you don't want to know that at quarter four. You want to know that. You want to know that at the end of quarter one. Do a quarterly check-in if if that's
Correct.
possible, or at least a mid-year. And by check-in, it's not just the systems check-in, it's the people check-in. It's
The
making sure
people.
that
People.
right. It's making sure that these two, and I think that was one of our questions, but let's just talk about it right now. It's like getting that balance. And as a leader, Angela, I guess this would be a great question for you. How do you find that balance between the systems goals and the people goals? And how do you try to maintain that balance so that one doesn't falter or fall to the wayside for the sake of the other?
So you know that really don't happen. You know? I don't want to just take I don't want to seem like I'm gonna lead you down a dark
Solve the
road with
problem.
no light at the end of that tunnel. But what you have to do as a leader is every day is a priority day. Every day you have to reassess, and you have to come up with I come from where, if technology is the priority, if we're going to create this new system, how do I equip my team to work this new system? How do I bring all the stakeholders to the table as we create this new system? And then how do I go back, as you said, and do those midpoint checks? Whether it's in my one on ones, whether it's my monthly meetings, quarterly meetings, how do I go back and assess? Because the balance is making sure the ecosystem, the holistic approach. You got a job to do, because I don't want this to sound like you don't have a job to do. You do have a job to do. But how do you make sure your people are good that are doing the job? If you make sure your people are good, I'm gonna sing it forever. If you make sure
Yeah.
your people are good that's doing the job, I'm not talking about a person that comes to work too late every day. I'm not talking about those minute things. I'm talking about the overall people, the overall, what is the messaging of the company? If you care about your people, if you send out a message, hey, it's Christmas, we're working hard. I know we're doing this modernization of our technology system. I know you guys are doing extended hours, but this is what we're going to do. You're going to celebrate them as the CEO, as the supervisor. You're going to cheer them on, right? Making sure your people are good, and then they're going to do that work because they
Yeah.
feel celebrated, they feel valued, they feel. I tell you, I'm gonna say this last thing because I know we're wrapping down. But I had employees that used to work on weekends and put in field notes, and it was a complaint. Why do they work on weekends and put in field notes? Because they wanted to meet the standard of promptness. They wanted to meet their key performance indicators. You know why? Because they knew, Angela, that's what we do. We get it done over here. And that's, they love that momentum. And so I didn't even have to tell my team what to do. They went beyond. If you
Yeah.
meet the needs of your people, the people that's there to work, they're gonna go beyond for you. I promise you that. They will go beyond for you. This is tested, tried, and proven.
Period.
Yes.
Oh man, it's just been so good, Angela. I don't even want this to end truly because we could just keep going with this. I want to ask one final question and then we're going to close it out. But as a woman who has led at the high level that you have led and are continuing to lead, what have you learned about leadership that you wish more women had access to earlier in their careers?
Psychological safety. Build your team. And I'm not talking about your team in your company.
Mhm,
Build your outside team.
mhm.
Know who you can go to for your wisdom, who's going to tell you, who's going to give you constructive feedback, who's going to tell you, no, you're wrong on that, or build that safety so that you can be transparent, you can be vulnerable, and then build your people that's going to have your people around you that's going to cheer you on. If you get a no, so what? You got to know. If you get rejected for a job, so what we're doing next? What are we doing next? I
Yeah,
love that. What's
yeah,
next? Like,
yeah.
you don't stop. You don't stop at your nose, but you got to have your team in place to support you and elevate you, and also be transparent when when you need somebody to tell you, oh no, that's not right. You need
Mhm,
that person to
yeah.
bring you back to what I call reality. Reality check. So yes,
Reality
I would
check.
have to say.
That
Yeah.
that's really great advice, and I think that is going to help us just stay right there. Don't leave, okay? Because the question at the heart of the Dream League is the same, and that's what would you tell the woman building toward the level you now occupy? And I'm certain you would tell them to build the team. And then what is, one other thing that you would tell them?
Continue learning. Never believe you've arrived. I don't care if you manage a Fortune 500 company, which makes you think you've arrived. I have
Mhm.
met some of the most successful, even Michelle Obama. Okay, when I went to hear her speak, I loved what she taught us, and she taught us about building your team. When she went to the White House, she had to find her people because her brother told her no new friends, and she said she had to learn. I mean, really, she said, I had to learn. I needed friends. I needed
Yeah.
friends, but at the same time, you have to continue to learn, because the more you learn, the better you'll serve.
Mm, and there we have it, folks. Angela Harness, I so humbled, truly. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you,
This was
Portia.
really
Thank you.
uh, I am just so excited. I'm going to chew on this so much and I'm going to repost it. And I'll send you. We had a lot of comments in the chat today, and I'm very grateful for everyone who showed up with us today. Thank you so much for
Thank
spending
you.
part of your
Thank
day
you.
with us. The Dream League is presented by the Workplace Reset Consulting Group. And this series exists because I truly believe in mentorship. I believe in the wisdom and leadership lessons that should not be locked away behind closed doors. And so, if this conversation gave you something to think about, I invite you to stay connected. You can find Angela on LinkedIn, share it with someone, repost it. Just continue reflecting on the question, what needs to change around the performance, not just within the performance. So, thank you again, Angela. You're amazing.
Thank
Um,
you. This has been a pleasure.
we will see you next time on the Dream League. And until then, have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Bye bye.